Hello, welcome back to the channel. So today I thought we would go through how I create dubstep basses in live, but with free instruments and free effects and everything else. So most people, most of the top producers and everything else use Massive, which is expensive. There are others available, but they're all expensive. And yeah, and they tend to use sort of like expensive versions of software as well. I have the light version of Ableton, so that means I'm limited to like 8 tracks. And I've found over the years workarounds how to get more tracks out of it than there are. So let's dive straight in. So firstly, what we've got here, so this is just a completely blank MIDI track. I've got Reactor loaded up. Now, if you go to Native Instruments website, they were giving out a free version of Reactor, Contact and Complete Control as part of like a free package. And this, then, if you load in Reactor and then load in the Tractor bass, it sounds like this. This is just sort of standard synth. But the important one here is what we're trying to do is using the oscillator to create kind of like a moving bass sound. So there's a few different ways we can do this in here. So it's got these different options here. You can hear how they sort of sound very, very different. And you can hear how some of them are actually pretty close anyway, sort of in the kind of ballpark of these things. So the key things here that we need to use, depending on what you've got selected, is going to be these two knobs here. So in the form of classic, they are the wave shape, goes from a saw wave to a pulse wave. Super, which kind of fades between slightly curved and sort of straighter edge saw wave. This just kind of moves through some very strange things, and it's this movement that is what's going to give the dubstep sound, at least the modern dubstep sound anyway. The FM is sort of a standard FM synth really, and then modern, it kind of morphs through these different shapes. Now these you can also tweak here with wave A and B. You can literally select different waves, but you can't change this in real time. So these, it's kind of like selecting what kind of things you want to morph between. Some create bigger changes than others. And then using that on top of this warp here, you can hear we can make really big changes to the sound. So now if we go into the LFO, now this is the important bit, let's just get rid of, because there's already some things happening here. I've just got to work out where they are. So they're in here. We can just get rid of that. I think we probably want to get rid of the cutoff as well for now. We'll have that max. We might come back and edit that in the LFO later. So at the minute we just got a static waveform. I mean, it's not a bad bass as a standard bass to go, but it's not that dubstep kind of moving bass line that we're really after. So what we want to do is, now let's decide. I think we're going to go with this one. So if we go into the LFO here now, so I'm just going to hit one note, hold it, and if we tweak this, you can start to hear it kind of moving about. At the minute, I would say that this is probably too fast. To tempo, there we go, that's the one we need. This allows us to select the amount of the speed at which the bass is making its sound here with frequency. Okay, so you can actually see, this is why I like this, because it's in a similar way to the way that Massive shows you that waveform that you're moving through. This kind of does it in the same principle. And it's the same too. You can see that no matter what we select here, it's the same too that we're affecting up here. But depending on what we select, it's going to have a greater effect on the on the bass sound. But I quite like this at the minute, and I think what we're going to do is just maybe... There's two different ways that we can actually create movement in the track as well, in the instrument as well. So the LFO is obviously one, which is tied to the tempo. And if we were to actually hit play on this with the metronome running, you can hear how it's moving along with the tempo. But the other way that we can do it is with the envelopes. Now these envelopes are what's triggered by the actual press of the key, and you have the standard three, attack, decay and sustain. Now you can apply these to anything up here. So I think to add the extra movement, what you can do is adjust this so that let's put that in. So that as you hit this, it's going to affect that further. So the attack is the immediate response, so how much it's going to affect the sound immediately. The decay is then how long it's going to take that to fade out. And if you put the sustain up to anything, that's where it's going to stay once that decay's finished. So if we were to just put it sustain, you can see how it pushes that up the whole time that we're holding down the key. But if we leave that down and put decay up, you can see how it does sort of it. In fact, if I turn this right down and make it really obvious, you can see how it goes right up and then slowly back down again. And we've got two different ways of doing this. So there's an auxiliary envelope and an amp envelope. They both work in exactly the same way. The only difference is that this also affects the sound output. So if you put attack up here, it will fade in the sound. And decay is how long the sound will stay after you let go. And it fades out. Obviously you have that, it's going to be literally, what's found, you want a little bit of decay at the very least. But it does mean that we can apply this also to filters and things like that as well. But sticking with the auxiliary envelope, I'm also going to put some on the cutter. I'll actually do the reverse. Now, this is why I quite like this bass as well, because you can actually do reverses. So this is where, like, instead of it going up and then coming back down, you can have it come from down back up again. So it's basically the point at which this is maxed out. So that could be attack or sustain. And then this adjusts how much is affecting that. You can hear how it fades that cut off in. If we mix that with a bit of LFO to add a bit more. Now we also have this modifier here, which, depending on what you select up here, is going to have a big difference to the sound of it. You can see how that's going to, basically this is kind of visualizing what it's going to do to that sound. So that in that case it's squashing the sound. That's a bit weird. I think in this case we just probably want a little bit of drive from that. Okay, and then if we go to effects here, we've then got different there that we can choose as well. So depending on the sound that you're going for, that might be distortion, it might be unison, it might be a bit of flange or phase. I tend to stick with either distortion or unison, and then depending on what you do with this, it's going to affect the sound. Okay, so we've got quite an interesting like drum and bassy dubstep sort of sound there. You can see just by changing these makes a big difference to how the sound is going to be affected. Okay, so I think we're going to stick with that. I mean, there's so many different possibilities, and I'm going to go over some of that in a bit as well. So the other thing that we have here, which is turned all the way up, is a sub. Now if I cut that out, you can hear it's adding the real meat of the bass, and we will be adding to that in a minute. But this allows you to kind of fine tune the way that sounds as well as kind of drop it right down. So if you wanted it I think actually that's well. Kind of just lifts everything else up. You get that really high pitched sort of squeaky sound. Yeah, we definitely want this one. We can even modulate the distortion drive here as well to add to the Okay, so we have kind of a basic sound, but we're not done there. The next thing that we're going to add onto this is OTT, which is a compressor. Don't ask me exactly how it works. All I know is that everyone uses it, and to be honest, it's quite key to making a big difference to your sounds. So if we now play the same thing just with OTT dropped on, again, this is a free plugin. We've now got some great control over fine-tuning that sound, and also you can hear how it's kind of really bringing out the grit there. It's a really aggressive compressor. We can go back in and fine-tune this a bit further if we want to. Okay, so we're getting even closer. Next thing is to add a chorus. Where are you? There you are. Now this, depending on what sort of sound you're going for, you may choose to just use a little bit of it, or you might decide to make it quite aggressive. The next thing is, believe it or not, we want another compressor. Okay, and then we also want to add a bit of reverb. Actually, before we put the reverb in, we want to add an EQ. So again, if you go to the Melner Productions website, there's a whole suite of free plugins. And I only use a handful of these, but the EQ is definitely the one I use the most. If you put the analyzer on here, you can actually see the waveform, and I mean, you can see we've got quite a strong waveform going on right now. Probably over compress it a little bit. But this will then allow us to kind of really refine the sound we're going for. So we're going to cut out some of the high end here because we don't need that. But we are going to boost a little bit. We're also going to cut maybe a little bit of this, but also we want to be really careful. We don't want to erode our sub. And then we can use this to cut out and shape that sound. Now, I think what I'm going to do is actually just lower that a little bit and put this on so that it actually ducks that drive out. You can see we're beginning to get quite an aggressive sounding bass. Okay, now we want to put the reverb on it, so we switch the reverb over here. But now the key thing with reverb is you don't want it to be reverbing the bottom, otherwise it sounds like so messy. So what we do is we cut a low cut here, we can leave the higher cut on, we just switch that so that it's only affecting the high end, not the rest of it. We can adjust the amount of it here as well, but we want the decay time quite a long way up. And you get that tail of high end, which sounds really nice. Okay, so I mentioned a trick earlier in the video as well, how you can get more basses out of, more tracks out of Ableton Live Lite than just the 8 tracks. And I bet you're wondering how exactly I do that. So one of the things that you can do with Live that most people I don't think even actually exists is you can create instrument racks. So what we're going to do here is I've just created a new MIDI track which is completely empty, nothing on it. If we then go into instruments here and click on it and drag instrument rack, just a blank one, we don't want any of these because these are actual sounds. These are ones that have been created before. Drag that onto blank track. You see again, there's nothing here, there's no instruments, it's not doing anything. What we can then do is select this lot, the whole lot, copy that, paste it, click here and paste it into here. And then we've got an instrument in here. And you go, well, Andrew, that's just exactly the same thing. Key thing, if we click here, show and hide the chain, you can now see that we've got that as one instrument, which we can duplicate. Now, we don't want to play both of them at the same time because they're going to sound like shatter. We've played them to be way too loud, distort everything. But what that does allow us to do now is to combine them. So if we lower the volume of one, or lower the volume of both, should I say? Nope, that's going up. We can now have both on, and we can adjust one, change one so it's something else. Which is great, so we can make even more sounds doing it this way. The alternative way that we can do it is if we duplicate that again, the whole track, what we can do here is if you click on key, this now shows you the whole what's responding to the input. And you can see here the little red marker is showing you that that's where we're pressing. I'm pressing on F sharp in second octave. And what we can do is actually filter out so that it only plays one at different octaves. So if we go like this and like this, and you can do this split however you want, depends on what key your song's in. So you might decide that you don't want the split to start on C. You might want it to start on F sharp or A or whatever it happens to be. But now you can hear it's only playing that. You can actually see it down here. It's only playing that one, which means that we can have completely different sounds on different ones. So we could have this one, for instance, playing but if you go to the other one, you go down an octave, you can hear how that one's now really bad because it's too low. We can fix that quite easily by going to that track and grabbing the MIDI effects and the pitch, dropping that in here, and adding an octave to that. And now we're back in the same key. So we can play two different bass sounds on two different octaves, which means that you can get some really crazy sound. Now I have done this on different tracks before, so if I load up, we go in here and load this bass machine here. So you can see here I've actually got an instrument rack that's got subs and basses on it, so it's got extra subtones. And then inside that I've got another instrument rack in here with a whole load of different basses. And what I've done here is set up a macro to allow me to select between different basses. So when I was working on a track, I could write the melody with the sub alone and then use this to change the song, the actual bass that's playing at that particular moment in the song. So if I hit play on a bit of this, obviously it's missing all the drums and everything else, but you should be able to hear what's happening with it. There you go. So I'm dynamically changing it. You can see how it's changing here in the bass selector. I've also got some other pan effects and bits and pieces on that as well. So yeah, so that's how I make dubstep basses using completely free instruments rather than the rather expensive massive and everything else. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like and subscribe. I will be putting out more videos more regularly, so keep watching. And also I'll be doing a live stream as often as I can, ideally every weekend, where I will make a track in a day and well, in an hour, and every week I'll do a different style of track. So yeah, keep watching, make sure to subscribe, and yeah, thanks for watching.